The first thing I heard that day was a woman shouting from across the street, "There's someone in military cosplay threatening the neighborhood." And I swear, not even 2 minutes later, 3 police cruisers came barreling down the road like it was a hostage situation. Sirens blaring, doors flying open, and there, in the middle of it all, stood my wife. Calm as ever, dressed in her Navy working uniform, holding a box labeled "Fragile Military Records," while a woman I didn't yet know was flailing her arms like she'd just caught a terrorist. The irony? That woman, screaming about impersonation, was yelling at a decorated Navy commander who had survived 2 deployments, a shipboard fire, and a helicopter crash in the Indian Ocean. And now she was being accused of, what? Dressing too patriotically on a Tuesday morning? We had just moved into a neighborhood called Crestwillow Springs. Sounded peaceful enough, but turned out it had more bylaws than birds, and way too many residents with binoculars. My wife, Commander Riley Monroe, had just been reassigned to the naval base nearby after a tour coordinating maritime response in the Pacific. Me? I'm just a civilian software engineer who was mostly trying to keep our espresso machine from breaking during the move. Enter Karen. Actually introduced herself that way. "I'm Karen Delaney, president of the Crestwillow HOA. She walked up to us that morning, holding a clipboard like it was an extension of her soul. She didn't look at me once, locked eyes on Riley like a hawk that spotted a threat. "Excuse me," she said, her tone sharper than the July sun. "Are you part of some kind of performance group?" Riley turned slowly, calm as ever. "No, ma'am," she said. "I'm an active-duty Navy officer." Karen blinked, paused, and then smiled. "Not the friendly kind, the kind you see on a crocodile. Well, we don't allow costumes here. There are children around, and frankly, camouflage can be very threatening in a residential environment." I nearly dropped a box of dishes. Riley didn't even flinch. She replied, evenly, "This isn't a costume. These are my issued service utilities. I'm reporting to base later today." "Nice try," Karen said, now backing away with her phone out. "If you don't remove that outfit immediately, I'll be contacting law enforcement." And boy, did she. 10 minutes later, here come the cops. The officers looked confused when they stepped out and saw Riley in uniform. One asked, respectfully, for her ID. She handed it over. His eyes scanned the card, then did a double take. "Commander Monroe?" he asked. "From Naval Coordination Pacific Command?" Karen, who had been smugly gesturing the whole time, suddenly froze like a deer in headlights. Another officer radioed something. Within minutes, a vehicle from the base pulled up. Karen's confidence melted like butter on a grill. She tried to pivot, saying, "Well, maybe she's real, but that uniform still violates visual standards for the neighborhood." One officer turned and told her flatly, "Ma'am, filing a false report against a military officer is a serious offense." Karen just stammered, "I didn't know she was real." I said, "No, you didn't care to ask." The neighbors had come out by then, phones in hand, whispering. Some recognized Riley. One woman asked, "Isn't she the one who ran the naval relief operations last year?" Another whispered, "Karen just picked the wrong target." But Karen wasn't done. That afternoon, she dropped off a printed HOA citation at our door. Allegedly, Riley's uniform fell under unapproved garments resembling paramilitary attire. The next day, it was a fine for our small Navy flag. Day after that, it was a complaint about our dog barking in a commanding tone. It would have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating. By week's end, we had 6 citations and $350 in fines. Riley refused to pay a cent. She filed them away like mission briefings. I started hearing from neighbors quietly at first. A man named Hank left a sticky note on our mailbox. "If you ever need support, count me in." A widow who had lost her son in Afghanistan brought over a pie and just said, "Thank you." Then came the HOA meeting. Karen hosted it on her lawn, flanked by 2 lawn flamingos and a sign that read, "Keep Crestwillow Civilian." She claimed military presence was intimidating and accused Riley of weaponizing patriotism. But that night, after the meeting fizzled, someone left a folded American flag and a Navy challenge coin on our porch. Riley didn't say much, just held the coin a long time in her palm. Then came the flyer, taped to trees, mailboxes, even our trash bin. Title: "The Threat Within, Preserving Civilian Harmony." It accused Riley of projecting militant authority and hinted that our house might be part of a surveillance operation. It would have been hilarious if it hadn't triggered an actual Department of Defense check-in. Two men in polos showed up in a black SUV. They were polite, even apologized for wasting our time. Riley logged into her secure laptop, showed them her deployment orders, the approved equipment list. One of the agents said, "Honestly, this is the cleanest setup we've seen." But that visit spooked the HOA board. Legal liability was now on the table. And then a journalist from the local news picked up the story. Not sensationalized, just a piece on military families facing bias in civilian spaces. Riley didn't name Karen once. She just said, "We serve so Americans can live freely. All we ask is to live freely too." The story aired on a Wednesday. By Thursday, we had cards, casseroles, and cupcakes on our porch. One teen walked by and shouted, "You're awesome, Commander." Karen tried to spin it. Claimed Riley was manipulating public opinion with military theatrics. Filed a complaint for neighborhood defamation. The board had had enough. They scheduled a vote to remove her. At the final meeting, the clubhouse was packed. Karen gave a dramatic speech. Riley didn't bring notes, she didn't need them. She just said, "This isn't about rules. It's about dignity. I didn't come here to fight, but I won't be chased out of my home for serving my country." Then neighbors started standing up. One by one, they told their own stories. An elderly vet fined for a flag. A single mom harassed over sidewalk chalk. A black family cited for unapproved trim color. When the vote was called, it was swift. Karen was out. Just like that. She left the room without a word. Her house went up for sale a month later. That same week, Riley got promoted. Captain Monroe now. We threw a quiet dinner. The neighborhood had other plans. Folks showed up with food, folding chairs, music. Someone hung a banner. "Congratulations, Captain Monroe." Even the mayor stopped by with a framed certificate. Riley was stunned. She'd spent her life commanding fleets, but this meant something different. Something deeper. Karen never showed. Last we heard, she moved to a retirement community with strict pet policies and no flagpoles. Seems fitting. And as for Crest Willow, they rewrote the HOA charter. Added clauses to protect veterans. Banned targeted harassment by HOA officials. That might seem small, but it matters. It means no one else here will be told they don't belong for serving the very country this neighborhood stands on. Sometimes the loudest bullies fold the fastest when they're met with quiet strength. Riley didn't yell. She didn't rant. She just stood firm and let the truth do the shouting. So what do you think? Should HOAs be allowed to restrict uniforms and flags on private property? Have you or someone you know faced this kind of neighborhood power trip? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you know a vet, thank them. You never know when they might be the calmest person in the storm.